For one of them, British producer Peter Bluff, the flight to London meant a reunion with his fiancée.
First off the plane at Biggin Hill, British-born producer Peter Bluff, and waiting to meet him, his fiancée Geraldine. The four men, Bluff, reporter Bob Simon, cameraman Roberto Alvarez and soundman Juan Caldera, had spent 41 days in captivity. They met other prisoners, including, it's thought, some Allied airmen. In a Baghdad prison, they were beaten and interrogated and almost killed in an air raid.
The Allied bombardment hit the building that they were in, hit the prison they were in, and destroyed the cell of Juan Caldera. He's lucky he's alive. The wall behind him was blown away, and he simply walked around the cell door because there was nothing left of the floor or the wall behind him.
Released in Baghdad yesterday after Soviet intervention, it had been a grueling ordeal. Back in London, they're now in a private hospital undergoing medical checks.
I find them in remarkably good shape when you consider they've been imprisoned in awful circumstances for 40 days.
But they were beaten on occasion.
Yes.
Do they show any ill effects as a result of that physically?
Not that I can detect. Absolutely no signs, no bruises, no broken or damaged tendons. It looks as if the beating was really not very severe.
The four men are expected to stay in hospital a few days before being allowed to return to their families.
Iraqi military commanders have met in occupied Iraq. The Allies set out demands that Iraq must meet before a permanent ceasefire in the Gulf can be formalized. The Iraqis agreed to an immediate release of all prisoners, military and civilian, the details to be worked out by the Red Cross. The meeting was at Safwan Air Base in southeast Iraq.
Chinook and Black Hawk helicopters in heavily armed formations brought the Allied commanders to their desert rendezvous, an Iraqi air base occupied by coalition forces. Desert Storm Commander General Norman Schwarzkopf headed the military team. It was, he said, an historic day, a meeting to discuss the ceasefire, not a surrender, but a day when he was going to make it clear who was in charge.
I'm not here to give them anything. I'm here to tell them exactly what we expect them to do.
The Iraqi generals were arriving out of sight of cameras, under military escort, and stripped of their weapons.
They'll be checked by your security and ours, and then they'll move down to the negotiation. Now, I don't want them embarrassed in any way, all right? No, sir. Okay, I don't want them humiliated.
The rival commanders met across a simple plywood table in a green desert tent. General Schwarzkopf sitting with Saudi commander General Prince Khalid bin Sultan. Opposite, two Iraqi commanders, leaders of an army that had been decimated in 38 days of Allied bombing under 100 hours of land fighting. The meeting took less than 2 hours. General Schwarzkopf leaving to confer with colleagues, including British Forces Commander Lieutenant General Sir Peter de la Billière. The general said that agreement had been reached on all matters, including the clearing of minefields, control measures to avoid clashes between armed units of each side, and the withdrawal of coalition forces from Iraq after a ceasefire.
The most important point that we discussed was the immediate release of all prisoners of war. We have agreed that this release should be immediate. We have agreed that the details of this release must be worked out by the International Red Cross, but both sides have agreed that we will do everything we can to work with the Red Cross to, as rapidly as possible, determine locations and times. I would just say that I think that we have made a major step forward in the cause of peace, and I have every expectation that if we continue the open and frank and cooperative dialogue that we had today, and I would say very candidly that the Iraqis came to discuss and to cooperate with a positive attitude, that we are well on our way to a lasting peace.